All right, when you see something like this, just factor out the common factor. It literally just wants you to factor out the common factor. That's what it means. Prime specifically means you had no common factors. So like on your quizzes, some of y'all wrote prime and you had factored it. And so those two cannot be in the same answer. If you can factor anything out of it, it is not prime. If the only thing you can factor out of it is a 1, then it is prime. All right? So in this case, obviously, we can factor something out of it. What can we factor out of this? Yeah. So the only thing we can do is a 2, actually. If we had any variables that we could get out of it, we would take those out as well, but we don't, so we just take our 2 out. And so you're going to put the 2 on the outside. You're going to have 3 plus 5n plus 8n squared. And that is your answer. All right, that is your answer. Divide everything by the 2 that comes out of it. Number 5 is just basic factoring. If you have a 1 in front, you can go straight to your last term. And so you can go straight to this 60 and look at those factors that add up to 16. If you need to write out all your factors, you can. 60 is going to have a lot of them. What, like this? I mean, 4 probably goes into it too, right? There we go. So, I mean, as you can see, we have lots. 7, 8. Is that all of them? 9. Yeah, that's all of them. So we're looking for ones that actually add up to 16. What are those? Yeah. So once you've done that, you don't have to factor by grouping. When you have a 1 in front, you can just go straight to your answer. So your answer here is going to be those 2. We are same sign because we're getting a positive 60. And that sign is going to be a plus. So we're going to straight to n plus 6, n plus 10. Quick check. You can just FOIL it if you want to. But this would be your answer right here. You are making sure that these 2 numbers add up to get the 60, or multiply to get the 60, and add to get the 16. So we want to make sure that those work. Multiply to get positive 60, add to get positive 16. All right, let's look at the next one. Now remember, your first step is to look for a common factor. Now if your first number is a 1, that's easy. You're not going to have a common factor. But if it's not a 1, you do want to look through your terms and see if you can take out a common factor first. On your quizzes, a lot of you did your grouping perfectly, but you had not looked for a common factor first. And so when you got to the end, you had not factored it completely because there was a common factor. So here, we do have a common factor. It's a 2. And so we're going to take a 2 out, and we're going to get k squared minus 100. This is a special case. K squared is a perfect square. 100 is a perfect square, and you are subtracting. So you are going to go to k plus 10, k minus 10. Special case. All right, so this first one is factor by grouping. Again, what is your first step? Always. You need to look for what? Common factor. Yes, your first step is to always, always, always look for a common factor. This does have a common factor between all of it. What is it? 3, right? 3 is in common to all of it. So we are going to take a 3 out. That will give us 7m cubed plus 7m squared plus 6m plus 6. Now I am ready to factor by grouping. So I'm going to group my first 2, group my last 2. This 3, listen to me, I'm saying this because a lot of you missed it on your quiz, is part of your final answer. Okay? So you're going to bring that 3 down. And then we have, what's in common between these 2? 7m squared. And we're left with 1m plus just 1. What's in common between these 2? A 6. And we're left with 1m plus 1. And now we're ready to go to our final answer. This 3 again needs to be part of your final answer. My group that is in common is m plus 1. And what's left over is 7m squared plus 6. And then I am finished. All right, all right, so we have no common factor. So we're gonna go straight to our method of multiplying across. We're gonna multiply 7 and negative 8. What is 7 and negative 8? Negative 56. So I want factors that will multiply to negative 56 and that will add to negative 10. What are those?
14 and 4.
14 and 4. And so this is where you may want to go through and like do 1 goes into 56 how many times? 28. 2 goes into, well, no. Sorry, I went straight to 2. Sorry. 3 does not go into 56, so we go straight to 4. So you may want to go through your factors like this if you can't think of them. Just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Do they go into it? And if so, what is it? All right. So yeah, it's 4 and 14. Specifically, which one's positive, which one's negative? Positive 4, negative 14, right? So they have to multiply to give me a negative 56. They have to add to give me a negative 10. Once I have figured those out, you are just rewriting the middle term here. Some of you on your quiz, for some reason, changed your last term when you did this grouping problem. So you don't want to do that. You want to keep your first term the same. You want to change your middle terms to these that you just found. And then you want to leave your last term the same. And now that you've done that, you are ready to factor by grouping. And so you can group the first two, group the last two. If you did it where there was a negative, you do need to change that last sign. And then you are just going to then, what do I have in common? So what do I have in common on the first one? Just an X. Right. So then I have 7x plus 4. Uh-huh.
Can you switch the two? How do you tell?
All right, so on this next one, we have a 2 and a 7x plus 4. And then my last step here is to do my group that I have in common. And then what's left over. And then I am done. This is my first step for number 21. Take out a common factor, right? What is in common with all three of these? A 2. So I'm left with what? 5x minus what? 38x plus what? 21, that's a squared. 21. Okay, I probably won't give you anyone quite this big, but what's my rule here? What do I do now in here? Multiply 5 and 21. What do I get? I'm looking for factors that add up to give me 38, right? 38. 35. Yeah. What is it? 35 and 3. So 3 and 35. Again, go through your list. Does 1 and 105. 2 doesn't go into it. You can jump past it. 3 goes into it. How do I know 3 goes into it? 5 plus 0 plus 1 is 6, right? As soon as you get to 3, you would have seen that this works. All right? Just 105 divided by 3, you get 35. All right, so I'm going to leave this 2 out here. That's part of my answer. I'm going to rewrite this inside 5x squared minus 3x, a minus 35x, and plus 21. And then I'm going to factor by grouping. Remember, when you group behind there, you need to change the last one. What do I have in common with the first group? Just an x. I'm left with 5x minus 3. What do I have in common with the second group? A 7. I'm left with 5x minus 3. And then I'm ready to go to the end. My 2 is part of my answer, 2. 5x minus 3 and x minus 7. 25. First thing I look for, do I have a common factor? I do. What is my common factor? It is a 4. So I have 4m squared plus 4m plus 1. All right? So there's a couple ways you could do this. The first thing is you have perfect squares. Do you not? Yes? So 4m squared is a perfect square. That's a square root of 2m. 1 is a perfect square. That's a square root of 1. If I multiply those two and double it, I get my middle term. This is a perfect square trinomial. Or you could have multiplied across and done it, but you would have seen that you're going to get 2m plus 1 quantity squared. 2m plus 1, 2m plus 1 is what you would get there. For this one, as long as you have the variable squared here and the variable squared here, and both variables are in the center, you can treat it exactly the same. Your leading coefficient is a 1, so you don't have to multiply across. You just have to realize that in your groups, you're going to have an x and a y, an x and a y. And then you really just have to say factors of 15. So they multiply to give you a positive 15, and they add to give you a negative 8. What is that? 3 and 5, negative 3 and negative 5, right? Add to give you negative 8, multiply to give you positive 15. So negative 3, negative 5.